At the Chinese sprint qualifying, Charles Leclerc caught a slide at turn 11, lifted his foot by a fraction, saved the car, and went back to full throttle. His lap was still ruined, not by driver error, by an algorithm that couldn't tell the difference between losing control and saving it. And that one moment broke Formula One open. The FIA is now scrambling to change 6 different rules before Miami. Some of these fixes might help. But one of those problems? It's stuck until 2027, no matter what they decide. Right at that exact moment, Leclerc's throttle dipped under 98%, and that's where things turned messy. A piece of code inside Ferrari's system didn't see a smart recovery. It only saw a threshold violation. No context, no awareness, just a cold trigger. Instantly, the system shut off electrical power for the rest of the lap. Leclerc went back on throttle, ready to push again, but the power was completely gone. Just like that, his lap was ruined. Not by driver error, but by an algorithm that couldn't tell the difference between losing control and saving it. And that right there is the real issue messing with Formula One in 2026. Now here's where it actually gets complicated, because the FIA's fixes are fighting each other. This situation has pushed the FIA into urgent talks, scrambling to adjust 6 different rules before the Miami Grand Prix on May 1st. Some of these fixes might help, sure, but others come with compromises that teams are not happy about at all. And one of those problems? It is stuck until 2027, no matter what they decide right now. So yeah, we need to break down all 6 changes because this situation did not come out of nowhere. To really get why these updates are happening, you have to understand what failed in the 2026 rules. At the center of it all is the battery system, and it is way more complicated than it should be. Right now, cars have to harvest and deploy up to 9 megajoules of energy every lap. But here's the catch. The battery can only hold 4 megajoules at once. And that mismatch is where everything starts going sideways. On a single charge, the battery is stuck in this non-stop loop, going from empty to full every single lap just to keep up. Because of that, drivers are lifting off the throttle way earlier than you would expect, sometimes as much as 200 meters before they even touch the brakes. In that coasting phase, the MGUK adds resistance through the rear axle, generating energy and feeding it back into the battery. It is efficient, sure, and it works perfectly on paper, but it is turning Formula One into something it was never meant to be. When drivers are lifting that early, especially heading into braking zones, late braking overtakes are basically dead, not just hard. Completely impossible. Verstappen even confirmed this at Suzuka, straight up saying he could have passed Gasly but chose not to. Why? Because making that move under braking would drain his battery, leaving him exposed to get passed right back on the next straight. That is not real racing. That is just playing a numbers game with energy. Then it gets even worse with speed differences. When a car runs out of battery on a straight, it instantly loses around 500 horsepower, just gone in a flash. The car ahead suddenly slows down hard, while the car behind, still using full power, is closing in at insane speeds the sport has barely seen before. That gap disappears in seconds, and it creates a dangerous situation fast. Ollie Behrman's crash at Spoon Curve in Japan is a perfect example of how bad this can get. The car in front dropped speed suddenly, but Behrman was still at full push, and there was no time to react. This mix of drivers stuck managing batteries instead of actually racing, plus cars creating crazy and dangerous speed gaps the moment power drops, is exactly why the FIA is rushing to push out 6 different fixes before Miami. The first 2 changes are closely linked, so you have to look at them together to really get what is going on. First up, change 1. Cut the qualifying energy limit from 9 megajoules per lap down to 6. Then change 2. Increase the superclipping harvesting limit from 250 kilowatts to 350, bringing it in line with what cars already generate during lift and coast phases. Now, dropping from 9 to 6 megajoules might not sound huge at first, but it actually changes everything. With 9 megajoules, drivers are forced to harvest energy aggressively because the gap between what the battery can store and what the car needs is massive. That is why they are constantly juggling energy instead of focusing on pure speed. At 6 megajoules, that gap shrinks a lot. The car uses less electrical energy each lap, which means the battery does not suddenly fall off a cliff mid-straight like before. And that directly reduces those extreme speed differences that led to Behrman's crash, making things a bit more controlled out there. But here is the catch, and it is a big one. Less electrical energy means less overall power. Simple as that. So if this works the way they expect, the cars hitting Miami will actually be slower than what we saw in Japan. That is the trade-off the FIA is dealing with right now. Safer racing, but at the cost of raw speed. The superclipping change is basically the partner fix to all of this, and it targets the same core problem from another angle. Right now, drivers can only harvest 250 kilowatts through superclipping, but they can pull 350 kilowatts just by lifting and coasting. That gap is exactly why lift and coast has taken over. It is simply the smarter and more efficient option every single time. By raising the superclipping limit to 350 kilowatts, matching what lift and coast can do, the FIA is trying to kill that advantage completely. Now, drivers who stay flat out on the throttle can harvest just as efficiently as those who back off early. On paper, this should bring back late braking and more aggressive racing, which is what everyone actually wants to see. But in reality, it is not guaranteed to work instantly. Teams are going to need a few race weekends to collect real data and see if drivers actually change how they approach corners, or if they still fall back into old habits. And this is where Leclerc's moment at turn 11 in China suddenly becomes a huge part of the conversation. The third proposed change goes straight at the ramp-down algorithm, the same system that wrecked his lap. Right now, the rules say a driver has to stay at 98% throttle or higher for at least 1 full second to activate the ramp-down energy mode. If the throttle drops even slightly below that, for any reason at all, even something like catching a slide, the whole system resets instantly. The computer does not care what actually happened, it just sees a violation and cuts the power like a switch. What the system completely lacks is context, and that is where everything starts falling apart. It cannot tell the difference between a driver lifting on purpose to harvest energy and a driver making a split-second adjustment to stop the car from spinning out. Leclerc's lap just made it obvious to everyone, but this issue is happening to drivers all the time in every single session. So now the fix being pushed is to simplify the whole algorithm, make it less sensitive, raise the tolerance, and most importantly, give control back to the driver's right foot instead of relying on a strict computer trigger. That is a big shift because right now the system reacts instantly with zero flexibility, and that is exactly what caused the chaos. This ties straight into the fourth proposed change, which goes even deeper into how much control teams actually have over energy deployment. At the moment, teams use advanced software models running through the FIA standard ECU, basically mapping out the entire lap in advance. These systems decide how energy gets used corner by corner based on previous data, turning the whole thing into a pre-planned script. Drivers are then guided through it live, with instructions popping up on their steering wheels telling them exactly what to do and when to do it. It is precise, it is calculated, but it also strips away a lot of real decision-making in the moment. The new proposal aims to cut back that complexity, limiting what these models can control and forcing drivers to make more of those calls themselves in real time. Whether that leads to better racing or just a different style of racing is still a big question mark right now. Still, one idea is getting strong backing across the paddock. The driver should be the one in charge of how the car uses its power, not just following a preset program. Now, the fifth proposed change might be the biggest wildcard of them all. It carries serious potential, but also a lot of uncertainty. Right now, active aerodynamics in 2026 only works in specific zones, very similar to how DRS used to operate under the old rules. Right now, when a driver hits an activation zone, they press a button and both the front and rear wings open up at the same time, cutting aerodynamic drag by up to 40% and giving a huge boost in straight-line speed. It is controlled, predictable, and locked to specific parts of the track. But the new proposal flips that idea completely on its head. Instead of fixed zones, drivers would be allowed to activate their aero whenever they want, anywhere on the circuit, fully in their own control. And honestly, the logic behind it is strong. If drivers can open the wings at any moment, the whole aerodynamic battle comes back into play in a big way. Teams would have to rethink everything, designing cars for dynamic setups instead of just optimizing for a few preset zones. Drivers would be making constant choices, keep the wings open longer and take bigger risks into corners for more straight-line speed, or close them earlier and carry more grip through turns. That balance between risk and reward is exactly what separates great drivers from the rest. Ferrari is already pushing in this direction with the Macarena wing concept, building a system where the rear wing can rotate and cut drag on command instead of waiting for a zone trigger. That is the kind of flexibility a fully open active aero system would unlock. But let's be real, this is not risk-free at all. If a driver gets it wrong and keeps the wings open too long before a high-speed corner, they could hit it with way less downforce than expected. And that is a serious problem. The kind of mistake here would not just cost lap time. It could lead to a much bigger accident than the speed gap issues we are already seeing. This is not some made-up danger, it is exactly why those activation zones existed in the first place. The risk has always been there, and removing those limits brings it right back into play in a serious way. Now, the sixth change might be the most honest one out of all of them. The idea is simple. Raise the fuel flow limit to boost combustion power and take some pressure off the battery systems. More engine power means less reliance on electrical energy, which sounds like the cleanest fix so far. But here is the reality check. These engines were never designed for that kind of mid-season change. Pushing that now could mess with reliability, create failures, and open up problems that nobody wants to deal with halfway through the year. That is why everyone involved already knows this is not a 2026 fix. It is a 2027 solution, no matter how you look at it. And that really is the truth sitting underneath all 6 of these changes. You can tweak the rules, adjust the limits, and try to smooth things out. But the core issue is still there. The battery is simply too small for what the regulations are asking it to do, and that cannot be fully fixed right now. So what do these 6 changes actually do? They reduce megajoules, increase superclipping, simplify the algorithm, open up active aero, relax the ramp down threshold, and point toward fuel flow changes in the future. Some of this might improve things in Miami, no doubt about that. But none of it truly fixes the foundation. Whether it is enough to change the racing, whether Verstappen can finally pull off those moves, whether Leclerc can save a slide without getting punished, or whether a crash like Behrman's can be avoided. All of that gets answered on May 1st. 6 changes in 2 weeks is not a full transformation, it is a desperate push to make things work. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss the latest F1 news.